Science continues to discuss the origins of COVID-19 to help safeguard the world against future pandemics. History already has plenty of virus-related incidents to learn from, especially the long and disturbing history of viruses that escaped from research labs. In 1978, a year after the last recorded natural case and the disease was thought to be eradicated, a woman in the United Kingdom died from smallpox. She was a medical photographer at the Birmingham Medical School. The school was in the same building as a research laboratory where smallpox was being studied. The scientists were trying to contribute to the World Health Organization's eradication effort. She was the only fatality of the leak. The official inquest said poor ventilation and inadequate safety procedures were at fault. This wasn't the first accidental release of smallpox in Britain. 5 years prior, 4 people were infected at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. A lab assistant accidentally caused a contamination during a routine procedure. She survived, but 2 people died. The investigation into the 1978 incident took a look further back and revealed that this event wasn't the first either. The official report to the investigation into the cause of the 1978 Birmingham smallpox occurrence reviewed yet another previous outbreak in the city. Over 70 people in Birmingham contracted smallpox in 1966 from a medical photographer at the school. The photographer worked in the anatomy department. The report said that even though the Department of Anatomy was located on the floor directly above the virology department, nobody thought to investigate the ventilation between the 2 floors and 2 labs until 12 years later. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, or as it's more commonly known, SARS, first appeared in Guangdong, China in 2002. The initial outbreak infected over 8,000 people in 29 countries over 2 years.
And we need to know how big the population of people susceptible to the virus might be.
So far, that appears to be everyone with hands, a mouth, and a nose.
The virus seemed to run its course in 2004 after killing 774 people. Dr. Jiangfeng He of Guangdong Provincial CDC explained in the Journal of Thoracic Disease that SARS was highly fatal, killing 10% of people that it infected. However, not all of those patients were technically suffering from the same outbreak. In the summer of 2003, after 5 months of no new cases, a research assistant in a Singapore laboratory contracted SARS, but he hadn't been working with the disease. Although nobody else got sick and he recovered, the event triggered a worldwide alert and scared public health officials who feared that the epidemic had returned. In December, a SARS researcher from a lab in Taiwan tested positive. According to the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy, he had been working without the use of personal protective equipment. Even though he began experiencing symptoms on an airplane, nobody else got sick. SARS escaped and infected people in China on 3 separate occasions in 2004. A report from the World Health Organization said that the National Institute of Virology in Beijing was the center of 3 separate SARS leaks. This led to hundreds of quarantines, dozens infected, and 1 woman dead. The investigation suggested that the institute's biosafety procedures were in urgent need of review. Foot and mouth disease, often abbreviated to FMD, is an extremely contagious viral disease that affects cattle and other cloven-footed livestock, capable of being spread by people, contaminated objects, and animal products. Because of the extremely contagious nature of the disease, countries that face an outbreak will quickly find themselves subject to export restrictions. It's so contagious that any signs of the virus in one animal can lead to entire herds being culled. A 2001 outbreak in the UK ended with the slaughter of 6.5 million cattle, sheep, and pigs, causing a $16 billion hit to the British economy. After 6 years of the virus laying dormant, FMD appeared some 2 miles from the Institute for Animal Health in Pirbright. An investigation ordered by the House of Commons revealed that the virus had most likely leaked out from drainage pipes at the institute, contaminating the surrounding soil. FMD is considered so dangerous that a series of outbreaks in Canada and Mexico scared the U.S. government into building a dedicated research facility to study the disease. Originally built on a small island in Long Island Sound, the Plum Island Animal Disease Center now studies all manner of other infectious diseases, but it remains the only lab in the country that can work on the live virus for foot and mouth disease. Partly because of its isolation, Plum Island has been the center of several urban legends. One example is a conspiracy theory that Lyme disease was created there by Nazi scientists as a bioweapon. Some people even think that the government uses the lab to perform genetic experiments and create new animals. If there's anything scary about the Plum Island facility, it could be that it has experienced its fair share of accidents. Congress ordered an investigation into the facility in 2008 after the UK leaked the previous year. As it turns out, not only had FMD been released from the facility at least once in 1978, but the report revealed several accidents going all the way back to 1954, the year it was built. The Tulane National Primate Research Center in Louisiana is part of a network of 7 primate research facilities in the U.S., researching infectious diseases and creating ways to fight bioterrorism threats. Among the nightmares kept on the shelves for study are ricin, HIV, tuberculosis, and a nasty little bacterium called Burkholderia pseudomallei. Burkholderia affects both humans and animals, and because it's easy to collect, it's also easy to engineer strains that are resistant to antibiotics. Several countries have studied the bacteria for use as a bioweapon. The USDA and the CDC both launched full-scale investigations into the Tulane Center when the dangerous bacteria escaped in 2015. Even though the lab where research is performed on it is, as Tulane officials described it, a box within a box within a box, it somehow escaped anyway. As a result, several research monkeys and staff at the facility contracted Burkholderia. The disease-causing bacteria easily clings to surfaces and travels well with moisture. Investigators concluded that the likely cause of the breach was the staff carrying the bacteria on their shoes and scrubs between labs.
The last thing we need is for this thing to walk out of the lab on the bottom of someone's shoe.
Ebola frequently ranks among the scariest diseases humans have ever encountered, and with good reason. According to the World Health Organization, Ebola is one of the deadliest viruses on Earth, with case fatality rates ranging from 25% to 90%. Since its discovery in 1976, Ebola has been found in 18 different countries, including the United States, although the vast majority have been found in Africa, where it was first diagnosed. The virus first appeared in the U.S. in 1989 at a private primate quarantine facility in Reston, Virginia. After dozens of research monkeys imported from the Philippines died suddenly, they were discovered to have a highly virulent breed of Ebola, the Zaire strain, with a 90% fatality rate. 4 workers at the facility tested positive for Ebola soon after. Luckily for them, the workers contracted what is now known as Ebola reston, the only form of Ebola that isn't harmful to humans. Ebola reston returned 7 years later, again via monkeys from the Philippines. This time, they were imported by a company in Texas. 1 monkey died from the disease, but another 49 were euthanized to prevent its spread among the other animals under quarantine. Anthrax is a bacteria found in soil, and it commonly affects animals around the world. It can also affect humans in one of 3 ways, with varying levels of fatality. According to the FDA, cutaneous anthrax kills approximately 20% of people it infects. Fatality rates for gastrointestinal anthrax can range from 25% to 75%, and inhalation anthrax has a fatality rate of at least 80%. The lethality of anthrax led to it being studied for years as a biological weapon. It was used to deadly effect when 5 people were killed by letters laced with anthrax spores in 2001. Anthrax was first used as a weapon as far back as in World War I. Following a rise in international concern about the use of bioweapons, over 100 countries signed a treaty in 1972 that banned the development, possession, and stockpiling of pathogens or toxins. It also required countries to destroy stockpiles of anthrax bioweapons within 9 months of signing. 7 years later, the deadliest outbreak of anthrax ever recorded killed at least 66 people in the Soviet Union, supposedly due to contaminated meat. After the Cold War and the collapse of the USSR, it was discovered that the outbreak was caused by an accident at a secret illegal weapons facility. The Vector State Research Center of Virology and Biotechnology is deep in Siberia in Russia and houses one of the largest collections of dangerous viruses in the world. It is in fact the only other place in the world besides the CDC in Atlanta permitted to store smallpox. It joins Ebola, Marburg, anthrax, and other terrifying bugs at Vector, where researchers trowel through their genetic codes for defenses against them. Some of the substances stored here have escaped several times. Between 1988 and 2004, there were 3 separate lab accidents at Vector. The first was a researcher who contracted the Marburg virus and died in 1988. Another worker contracted the same virus and thankfully survived 2 years later. In 2004, another Vector researcher died after pricking herself with Ebola. In none of these cases did the disease ever actually escape the lab or infect anyone other than the initial case. Then, at the tail end of 2019, the research center exploded. The Vector labs were being renovated when a gas bottle exploded, which sparked a 30-square-meter fire. The explosion seemingly didn't unleash every pathogen in the place, but it's still a stark reminder that those labs are never totally safe from devastating accidents. The bacterial disease Brucellosis is one of the most common contagious zoonotic diseases, capable of being transmitted between humans and animals. It has high rates of morbidity and has the potential to cause permanent sterility. This bug kills a lot of animals, and while it can infect humans as well, such cases are extremely rare and rarely fatal. But it's still a versatile disease. The Mayo Clinic warns that brucellosis can affect almost any part of your body, including your reproductive system, liver, heart, and central nervous system. The disease can leave survivors with complications ranging from arthritis to meningitis to testicular infections and inflammations. Over 6,000 people in northwestern China contracted brucellosis in 2020, and the government ended up testing 55,000 people in the remote Gansu province. The outbreak originated at a biopharmaceutical factory owned by China Animal Husbandry Industry Company, which was manufacturing brucellosis vaccines. The company improperly disposed of the remnant bacteria used to make the vaccines. The waste got carried to a veterinary research institute where the first cases were recorded. The vaccine production factory was closed down and dismantled shortly thereafter. The 1918 flu epidemic was the first appearance of the H1N1 virus, also known as swine flu. It seemed to disappear in 1957, only to reappear 20 years later in China and the Soviet Union. This pandemic lasted from 1977 to 1978, killing some 700,000 people around the world.
You have to love its simplicity. It's 1/billionth our size and it's beating us.
A particular trait of the virus was that it generally only affected people under 26. It turned out that this was because this particular strain of influenza had already circulated the globe in the 1940s and 1950s. According to the American Society for Microbiology, this was most likely not a natural occurring event. In other words, it seems like someone may have kept a sample of H1N1 and was experimenting with it 20 years later. This led to persistent suspicions that the virus was an accidental release of a lab strain into the general population. In the mid-20th century, doctors and scientists in Central and South America were combating a strain of mosquito-borne encephalitis. It usually struck horses and donkeys, but would frequently cross over to humans as well. Equine encephalitis causes severe fevers and can cause permanent neurological damage or even death, especially in children. An animal vaccine was designed and distributed to protect horses and mules, and thus people as well. However, because of inadequate vaccine technology of the era, from the 1930s to the 1970s, the vaccine actually caused most of the outbreaks that it was trying to prevent. Then in 1995, a massive equine encephalitis flare-up struck Venezuela and Colombia. This strain seemed to be an exact duplicate of a 1963 strain. It was very unusual, as viruses in the wild typically keep evolving, and that's why we need recurrent flu vaccines. A 2001 paper in the Journal of Virology made it clear that while they can't definitively rule out natural or other artificial causes, a far simpler explanation for the complete genomic sequence identity between the strains is that the 1995 epidemic resulted from the laboratory contamination. Almost 100,000 people were infected, over 300 died, and many thousands were left with long-term neurological issues from what might well have been an accidental lab leak. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about creepy stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.